Hi, everybody. So, is Prince Harry's recent docuseries on Netflix, The Heart of Invictus, is it a blockbuster or is it a total flop? I'm Deanna here from Hot for History. I want to welcome all of you guys. Tonight, we're going to talk about some royal news, some royal gossip, try to make way and hear our reviews and your comments regarding what your impression was of Prince Harry's Heart of Invictus. So first, I would just like to welcome all you guys. Let me know where you're calling in from, where you're from, and what state you're from, and what you think, because oftentimes we do like to show your comments, and we're having a conversation tonight. So please do subscribe, share this with your friends. We're going to talk about the reviews. But first, like I said, I wanted to welcome all of you guys. Prince Harry just released his docuseries called The Heart of Invictus. Now, what we do know is that the Invictus Games are really a great thing that he created, which are these like Olympic style games for wounded soldiers and soldiers with PTSD. And it's a great cause. It's a great cause. Prince Harry has done something great in bringing this together. He's had this going on for years. However, there are some reviews out that aren't, like some people are not saying that it's the greatest thing. One, I think, is because it's so long. I think if they would have edited it down to like maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, even like 90 minutes, or less, that would have been great, but it's 5 hours. It is produced very well. It's produced by some people who have also won Oscars in the past. And, in that way, it's great. I think some of the complaints about it were the length, or that they could have leaned in a little bit more on some of the personal stories. And then one of the big things, honestly, was that oh, sorry, is that Harry and sorry. Oh my gosh. I apologize for that faux pas on my part. Is that Harry had comments to make regarding his mental health and all that. And so we're going to get into this really great article by this guy, Jeremy Clarkson, and we're going to talk about whether or not the media did or did not properly talk about Afghanistan, because Harry is like, oh, the media didn't even hardly say anything about it. Oh, Jeremy Clarkson's article is really interesting. How is Prince Harry the fifth in line of the throne, even though he left the royal family? Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. He's not a senior royal anymore, but I think by succession, Rahala, by the way, I think that your name it's just beautiful. That is one beautiful name. So in the line that, he's still fifth. So, we have, William, George, Charlotte, Louis, and, and then Harry. Actually, he would be fourth. Wait, no, yeah, fifth. Okay, so he is at okay, and then my Sir Constipated in Sin City is talking to me about Chris Rock. I would love to have seen that. Okay, so I'm going to read this first. I'm going to read one of these articles about Harry and why some people think that it's a flop, because it failed to make the top 10 list. And by the way, and Steven, I was hoping you were here because the last time we were on, you're like, I'm already tired of the Invictus game. So I'm so glad you're here so we can talk about it. One of the things was that it focuses a lot on him. So it didn't make the top 10. There are some critics who say the reason why it didn't make the top 10 is because Netflix didn't want to put it there. So they either kind of watched it and were like, oh, we're not putting it up there to kind of push it, or they just, it really was a true testament to how people were viewing it. Hello, everybody. Welcome, the Royal Brief. Welcome. Okay, so I'm going to read this one article. My goal is to get to this Jeremy Clarkson article. So I'm just going to kind of touch upon this. Prince Harry and Meghan broke records with the release of their docuseries, the one with Harry and Meghan. However, the follow-up Heart of Invictus, the 5-part series, has failed to make the top 10 in both the US and the UK since its release last Wednesday. Maybe people are just not that into them anymore. You know what I'm saying? Heart of Invictus follows 6 athletes competing in the Invictus game. Awesome people, like awesome people. The sporting event founded by Harry back in 2014 for wounded servicemen and women. My favorite was the woman who is the Ukrainian, she does archery. The prince served as an executive producer. By the way, it did not say that Meghan Markle was producing it with his company, Archwell. So some people are saying they're just trying to kind of, keep themselves at arm's length, although they were at the Beyonce concert the other night. Harry and Markle have signed the lucrative deal with Netflix, estimated to be 100 million. So it's possible the streaming giant is unhappy with the lackluster debut of Heart of Invictus. I mean, it seems like the only one that did well was last year, Harry and Meghan basically dishing and just spewing out everything about, the royal family. The Post has reached out to both Netflix and Archwell for comment. Okay, so in a nutshell, they're saying that this comes as a surprise. Well, amid the $20 million deal that Spotify had that imploded. Meanwhile, the couple's animated series of Pearl, which was slated to stream on Netflix, was canceled. So basically, I mean, that's me doing kind of an overview. They had that Live to Lead series, right? So this is like their 4th, I think. So we had Meghan and Harry, or Harry, Meghan, whatever. Then we had Live to Lead. We had Pearl, which that didn't happen. Another thing didn't happen. And then they have this, and then they're producing something called Meet Me at the Lake, so that's what they kind of have going on. We're going to talk about how he trashes the royal family once again in this. And then we're going to talk about Jeremy Clarkson's article, because I just cannot wait to do that. Oh no, he has a new name for me. She just wants the attention because he has kind of been hiding from the public in the last few years. So that's probably why he made it longer. Oh, yeah, he probably made it longer because they wanted more camera time. I wouldn't doubt it. Doubtful Netflix would sink own ship. That's true. So I think Steven's referring to what I said, that maybe they just kept him out of the top 10 because they didn't like it or whatever, but it's most likely a true reflection of what actually happened. It could have been great, but they made it too much about themselves. Yes, because the subject matter is excellent. I mean, Harry, he had that one genius thing with helping to bring the Invictus Games to life in 2014. If his entire brand was on, let me interview, soldiers, let me talk about what it's like to be wounded. Let's talk about the mental health aspect. Everything there was sort of, I don't know, kind of crafted for his personal brand, in my opinion. And yet he didn't lean into that. He leaned into so many other things. Could it be rectified? I don't know, because this is not a success. It wasn't done as well as it could have been. It could have been short, to the point. He could have followed up with all kinds of stuff. And now I'm even hearing rumors again. I haven't followed through with it, that even Meghan isn't even allowed to be at the next Invictus Games. I don't know. I think one of you guys, it was either the Royal Brief or Steven, one of you guys said that the 2025 Invictus Games is like I don't know what bank it was that's going to be backing out because they didn't want Meghan there or something. I don't know. There was something. You guys can help me with that. I'm going to read a couple more comments, and then I'm going to read this next article. What I hated was that Harry has been acting like a spoiled brat, and he couldn't even visit the Queen. I know. That's pretty much my biggest, I've said this several times. If any of you have followed me for a little bit, I just got off the phone with talking to Willard Simpson in Central Valley, Illinois, who just turned 99 years old. This is my life. I love people who are older, and he was in the war. He was at Battle of the Bulge. I just got off the phone with him. Right. So my passion is really for people like that. And so when you have an old lady, a woman like that, who is an icon, and that's your grandmother, and you have an opportunity to bring your children, who are her great grandchildren, to sit on her lap, to take pictures, even if they won't remember, I don't know. I was like 3 years old when I was around my great grandmother, and I remember little things about her. So anyhow, I agree with you 1,000%. Okay, if King Charles died, will Camilla still rule UK, or Prince William will rule United Kingdom? And what will Camilla be if Charles dies? Okay, so she's never going to be a ruling monarch. She, of course, is the queen. Technically, her role is queen consort. If he dies, she'll be the queen dowager, which means, you know, the queen of a dead king. But she won't be queen mother. And her role will be more like, you know, just kind of, I don't know, representative, but not sort of, I mean, they don't really do legislative stuff anyhow, but they do have to write, you know, sign off on certain things. So that's what it would be, Rahala. Okay. I just like to say your name. Okay. And oh, yes. Okay. The concert. Let's talk. I'm going off topic again, but the concert, exactly what Stephen says. One day after anniversary of Diana's death, remember the crown scene with Queen Mary scolded her relative hunting and drinking day after son was buried at Mountbatten? Yes. So the criticism and a good observation was they were at the Beyonce concert, like right at the anniversary of Diana's death. Now, is that inappropriate? I think it's inappropriate because there was not a big hurrah done about Diana's death, but some somberness, some moment of reflection, rather than let's dance. And this just goes to show it's not just Meghan, it's Harry and their insensitivity to some of these things that would be more, let's say, royal. You know, they don't really act much like they're very royal in that sense. So I'm going to read now about what he said. Okay. What he said. Okay. The Duke of Sussex was candid in the clips from Heart of Invictus, where he chats about a range of subjects, including life in the royal family on the topic of the tragic, untimely death of his mother. I mean, I remembered the death, you know, I mean, it's something that I think of, but why they're dancing at the Beyonce concert, I don't know. And he says, losing my mom at such a young age, the trauma that I had, I was never really aware of. It was never discussed. I never talked about it. And I suppressed it like most youngsters would have done. I think that's probably an honest statement. The prince went on to say that no one offered him support during his grieving period, though he was only 12 when his mother died. But when it all came fizzing out, I was bouncing off the walls like, what's going on here? I'm now feeling everything as opposed to being numb, he added. The biggest struggle for me was no one around me really could help. And well, okay, I think it's true that everybody was sort of probably, oh my gosh, this is so shocking. But he is in the royal family. Somebody could have helped him, right? He could have gotten some help. He really could have. But, you know, he was a kid. So it was really more the responsibility of somebody to be able to step and do it. So I didn't have the support structure, the network, or that expert advice to identify what was actually going on with me. Unfortunately, like most of us, the first time you really consider therapy is when you're lying on the floor in the fetal position, probably wishing you had dealt with some of this stuff previously. And it does happen that the stuff comes later. I want to know what you guys think of. Yeah, I want to know what you guys think of right here with what he is saying. What do you think? What do you think about that? So the docuseries is not about Harry's real experience, however, much more. It's about his experience in the armed forces and the experience of those dealing with physical and emotional wounds. So the documentary follows a group of competitors as they train for the 2022 Invictus Games, a global sporting event, event followed by Prince Harry. Of the prince's involvement of the Heart of Invictus Games, producer Prince Harry's commitment to this. Anyhow, they go on to talk about, you know, I don't know, just describing what has happened. So Harry expressed in the Heart of Invictus his feelings about not having enough care given to him, right? So now this is what, and then he also complained about the media being so insensitive and not focusing on the war. Okay, good point. Because Diana died decades ago and Harry and William are no longer in mourning. Yeah, true. It just, I feel like I was on the fence with that one, Bunny. I just feel like it was insensitive for them and they could have just held out a couple days. I think it's true. They don't necessarily, like my mother died 4 years ago and the date comes. It's not like I'm mourning every time, but I do kind of pay tribute to her, right? On that date. And I do remember. But I don't know. I'm on the fence with it in that way, but I feel like they're being sort of in the public eye would put them up to more of a standard of needing to kind of show some respect. Okay, so I think the biggest FU was to Mother Teresa. She died a week after Diana, but she got 10% of that. Is true. That is true. The side, but inappropriate for the series. That should have been one episode. Yeah. Oh boy, fetal position, probably vomiting after night out. Ooh, yeah. So Diana didn't deserve any of it. Okay, no one helped her and no one helped her son. That is true. No one helped Diana with her postpartum depression either. It's a really great point. He proclaimed it hit him coming home at time he was third in line to the throne. So they never truly put him in real danger. I know they were protecting him. Guys, we got to read this because I did not know this. So I think the reason why this show imploded the most was because Harry can't get off of the focus ever regarding the media. He always has to throw a media dig. The media is his enemy in his life, right? So Jeremy Clarkson has rejected Prince Harry's claim that the UK media provides insufficient support or interest in the country's military veterans. I am going to read almost all of this article because he brings up such great points. Clarkson, who has been a longtime supporter for Help for Heroes, used his column in his Saturday Sun newspaper as a praise for Harry for being the founder of the Invictus Games, which take place in Dusseldorf this week. But he took issue with Harry's claims that the UK media doesn't care about injured personnel. Now listen to this. Clarkson wrote about the late Bryn Perry, who founded Help for Heroes and whose cause was taken up by the Sun with an awards night called the Millies, attended by Harry. Okay, so where's the rest of he goes on. I don't know why I'm not able to expand this. Sorry. He goes on to, here it is. Okay, so Clarkson said, I'm amazed Prince Harry doesn't remember this because I distinctly recall one year sneaking backstage with him and having a cigarette with him. The charity championed by the Sun and other papers, listen to this, ended up raising 370 million pounds to build facilities, including a rehabilitation pool for wounded servicemen and women. It wasn't just the Sun. Every newspaper was filled for months and years with news of the deaths and injuries. He wrote, I know that Harry has a problem with the media. He's got it in his head that it's the root of all evil, but he's obviously letting his rage cloud his judgment. 370 million pounds. In his Netflix series about the Invictus, which premiered last week, Harry described returning from Afghanistan, where he served with the British Army, and seeing his wounded colleagues on the plane. And he says, in quotes, I saw that what only people had talked about. That was the real trigger to see the real cost of war, not just those individuals, but also their families and how their lives would change forever. Stepping off the plane, I was angry at what happened to these guys. I was angry that the media wasn't covering it. But at that point, it wasn't clear to me what needed to be done. Clarkson was reprimanded by the press earlier this year after he wrote a column about Harry's wife, Meghan. He said some bad things about Meghan. He later apologized, explaining that in his haste to meet his print deadline, he had forgotten to make it clear he was joking, including the reference to the Game of Thrones. Okay, so what do we have to say about that? Maybe the media is being hypersensitive and pulling that one thing out. Because in other words, are the critics being so hypersensitive and like trying to take every little thing that he says rather than focusing on the big picture, which are the profiles of these 6 people who have gone through a lot, and Harry trying to show that these Invictus games are really great, right? So the Heart of Invictus if he would just focus on that, and then if the media itself would focus on the depth and the beauty of the show, maybe it wouldn't have been a flop. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is looking at it that they prolonged it too long and should have edited it and gone a little bit shorter and done a better job and not focused on Harry so much. So what do you think? I mean, I don't know how they would have done it without focusing on Harry a little bit, but let's see what you guys have to say. Okay, so he proclaimed it hit him coming home at the time he was third. Okay, we discussed that. Absolutely. And he is upset about initial court losses. So you would think the royals would be helpful, but guess not. Not even riches can give them. Yeah. I didn't hear about the leader of Smash Mouth dying. I did hear about Jimmy Buffett. I worked with Jimmy Buffett. He hired me many times to be the band at his wife's parties and his parties, and that was a complete honor. So I knew him personally. We weren't great friends, but he was a business associate of mine, and what a great man, great businessman, and great talent. Okay, so he has selective memory. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he does. Brian, what are they saying in the UK about, I mean, what have you heard about this series? Are they watching it? So you would think royals would be more helpful to the country, but guess not. Not even riches can buy them some kindness. Yeah, that is true. That was proven false by The Sun. What was proven false? I missed it. Sorry. Okay. Jeremy Clarkson has made it his job to trash Harry and Meghan. Yeah, he went way too far with Meghan. About what happened on stage with Rodney Danger. Oh gosh, one of the most hysterical men of all time. No, not many shares. The too much poor me vibe. Okay, so you're bringing up a point. I think on the next article, one of the things they also said is that they were, I'm not going to read this article, but they were reviewing sort of the stats. And one of the ways that they review how well something does is by looking at the commentary on social media. How many comments are there in Netflix? How many shares? How many, how much engagement do they have? And this was like a minuscule compared to, the smash hit that they had when it was the Harry and Meghan show. So that's what they're trying to say. They're saying like, it did not do nearly as well. And then, there are some people who think that it's fantastic, that it was fantastic. I honestly, I didn't watch the whole thing. Not that I couldn't, I was just kind of getting bored. Like, it didn't hold my interests that much. And me, I'm really interested in, in the royal family, but I love this kind of thing. I love, charity and like the man coming from behind and winning. So, but I just had a hard time sort of focusing that long. I was thinking of, I had so many other things to do that I was like fast forwarding it and all that. So, I do wish that it was shorter. I wish that they would have done a better job in that regard of just kind of keeping it more condensed, but they didn't. So anything else? I think that they overestimated the public's desire to watch so much tragedy. That's such a good point. Because, yeah, that I think you can only kind of take so much, and there's so much going on in the world, especially now that there's still things going on in Ukraine. I would have loved to have seen more on the children and wives. Yes, in the military. On another note, Harry was offered help. Both Prince William and King Charles tried to help him. Yeah, I mean, we've all had relationships with people, haven't we, where the stories that they tell about situations that we went through with them is very different than how we've seen things. And some of them do have loops, like the loops, loop-de-loop. It just keeps going. His loop is about how I didn't get enough help. Well, it's not too late. It's not too late to get help. And it's not too late to kind of lean into, what it is that you're hurting about now, right? So his loop is media stinks and does everything wrong. And he probably is thinking that's why this isn't a success, is because the media is not good. So I don't know. It was fame of Harry that brought interest, and his falling from grace has destroyed common interest in the Invictus. Oh, That is so sad, but probably true. In other words, his attachment to the Invictus Games was the very thing that brought it to the place where it was growing so big, because people liked Harry and people thought that it was interesting and people were cheering him on. Now they're not cheering him on as much. And so is it going to really be helping the Invictus game? Thank you. It is Sabella. It's a natural lipstick that I got. I don't know if I have a link for it, but I do have an affiliate attachment to it. It's from Melaleuca. It's natural. I wanted some natural makeup. Because I'm connected to a handful of wellness companies. I think there's something where you can get it. I'll make sure that I look. And I'm also wearing yellow, by the way, which I never wear. You can't hardly see it because I've got a green screen. Harry's is in video replaying. Yeah, Harry is in a video replaying how William urged him to help. There was one article I said that was like, oh, Harry was complaining about all the stuff, and yet he was the one who was talking about like Prince Charles like doing handstands in his underwear and his yoga positions. Like, I mean, it's just so twisted. Okay, and to have a little party girl and boy shaking booty during somber, yeah, it just doesn't go well together. I feel like they don't take any advice. Like, they don't take any advice, and they should, they really should. I have never watched that. I need to watch it. Okay. He's always the victim, even though he is privileged until now. He should focus on his projects and help people who trust him. But in my opinion, he is more like an ex-royal trying to be a celebrity. Well, that is 1,000% what he's trying to be. And the Invictus Games is an amazing thing. Like, he could do so much if he would just make that his job. Make it your job to really focus on the Invictus Games and do your thing with the Invictus Games, right? And that could, and there's so many branches that you could go with that. You could visit them. You could support a USO tour. You could do a podcast on it. You could make regular movies. Like, now they're going to make a movie called Meet Me at the Lake with Netflix. Why don't they do something like, kind of stories like this? Like, my husband didn't like it, but did you see Adam Sandler's movie, which was called I'm So Not Inviting You to My Bat Mitzvah? I know it sounds like a bad example, but he's kind of leaning into his culture and producing things with his family based on his own experience, right? And his own sense of humor. And so I think it's Netflix that gave him like a whole deal. But he's sticking in his lane, right? So Harry, stick to your lane. You've heard the saying, standing on the shoulders of giants. Well, this is the grifters trampling all over the disabled to get noticed. Oh, Brian. Oh, I have some very tasteless things that I could say about that, and I won't say it, but that's kind of true. Yeah, and what happened to Africa? Maybe they're still doing the Africa thing, right? Maybe they're still doing it. Which again is about them. Okay. The fakes and the lakes. Why couldn't they tell own story versus book? Essentially the same storyline. I don't know. And he's too busy trying to please everyone instead of getting to the heart of the matter. Yeah, the heart of Invictus. It's just, I don't know. I still think, my opinion is that Harry has always been so likable. For him to be able to trash his own image is a huge, huge thing, because he has, he had a decent, everybody liked him. We liked him. Okay, you guys tell me, did you like him before Meghan or even in the beginning of his relationship? Like, when did it start to kind of unravel for you? For me, I always liked him. I thought he was, questionable, but I kind of liked that about him. I thought it made the royal family more, I don't know, relatable. So I always liked him in that respect. And then And then I even liked him when he married Meghan. I was like, this is great. This is going to be a great thing. And then when I heard they were leaving, even in the beginning, I was like, okay, well, they're probably just leaving. I understand he's not going to be the king, so they can live their own life. But, what a shock. What a shock. Okay, the king is over Harry. Okay, and then of course our friend Bunny here thinks that the king is trying to get rid of the monarchy. In the way he's been scaling things down way too much. Loved Harry. Yes, he was the #1 royal. I agree with you. My favorite. I am. That's a green screen. I am in Florida after dodging a hurricane last week. Once he started bad mouthing the royal family, I didn't like him either. Then the book. Absolutely. Okay, so we are in agreement. This is so sad. My dad and brother, son, always 100% disabled. This for them. Bring in someone who is passionate about this. Yeah, because those stories, like, I thought it was great, honestly, that they brought people in with PTSD so we could understand that sometimes you don't see how debilitating the injuries are, the stories that and what it means. And then different cultures, like the guy, I think it was from Korea, how you don't even, if you're disabled, you don't even go out into public. So their goals in being victorious in these Invictus games sometimes are just to impress their children, to feel to get their confidence back, because the emotional and psychological wounds of being in intensive care or in the hospital for years, it's awful. So this is a great thing, I think. Okay, so anyhow, the book was in poor taste. Remember, Superman was his name. He was always appreciated. Yes, he was. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go now, and I'm so grateful for all of you guys. The order for the opening and closing ceremony has been published, and there's no mention of nutmeg. You mean in what is it? What day is it now? It's the Invictus Games is going on right now, right, in Dusseldorf, in my neck of the woods where my heritage is. Okay, let me see. I felt like I had to look out for both of them, seeing as their mother's plight. That's why when he was here in Las Vegas, I was the one who gave him a towel, then put him on blast. Well, thank you for doing that. But yeah, I mean, he wanted to have fun in Vegas and whatever. A disabled vet told me that there are 2 looks he receives: pity and fear. That's really sad. Okay. My favorite's William. I like Harry, but now he is not likable anymore since the drama started. Yeah, all of us have familiar problems, but we don't talk bad about them. Yeah. Okay, too short. It is too short. Next time we'll go a little bit longer. I'll have more content. Oftentimes I'll do different topics, and this time I sort of just focused on the Invictus games. So next time and I don't know if there's been a lot of other drama except for the Beyonce concert, Meghan not being mentioned or being sort of uninvited to the Invictus games. I don't know. Are we going to see her in the closing ceremonies? I don't know. And then, by the way, guys, this is the week that Queen Elizabeth died last year. So we should have some kind of get together in remembrance of last year, because there's a lot to unpack with that now. I'll just kind of bring it up a little bit. Some people are reporting that she literally died of blood cancer, which I don't think is that unusual when people get to be that age. I have a friend, my friend Willard, who's struggling with that diagnosis himself. And when they get that old, it's like, it's better that you don't necessarily treat it, because if you treat it, that could spiral them faster than letting nature take its course. So that's possible. It's possible that that's what the Queen had, but it's also possible that that's just a rumor. So, okay, I am going to go. I will talk to you guys later. All the best. Have a really great night.